for joining one of Tatango's webinars that's going to be covering campaigns and how to drive onboarding using campaigns. Thank you again for joining us. So for those of you that are not familiar with me, I'm Cecilia Tevel. I've been with Tatango for about 3.5 years, and I enjoy working with all of you, sharing best practices and learning about your businesses. If you have any questions directly for me after the session, you can just send me an email. It's just cecilia@tatango.com, and I'll be happy to stay in touch. So feel free to connect with me. So for today's agenda, we're going to be talking about how to identify customer segments that can benefit from onboarding automation. We'll decide what steps of your onboarding can be automated. And then we'll talk about how to set this up in Tatango. So we'll use the Tatango campaigns capability to align with your chosen process. So I'll give you some ideas and suggestions that can sort of start that brainstorming process for you and your team. So as far as deciding what customers can benefit from automation, it's really depending on your existing process and your life cycle journey with your customers. But typically, what we see successful is automating on customers that have a low touch or self-service model. So customers that don't necessarily have direct resources assigned to them, those are really going to be the primary benefactors of the automation that you can drive with campaigns. So your one-to-many approach is really well positioned with the campaigns capability in Tatango. Also, in certain cases, customers that are in trials, so customers that are going through your trial process or freemium accounts, may also not necessarily have a lot of direct interaction with anyone from your team, and they can be also great to target via the automation component of campaigns. And in certain cases, even if your CSMs, if there's this high touch model and your CSMs actually handhold your customers through the whole process, there may be some parts of the process that can also be alleviated and automated through campaigns. So we can kind of come up with some ways to take some things off their plate so that they can focus on maybe more engaged activities or more high touch consultative type conversations and automate some of the things that can be easily accomplished without having an interaction with your CSM. Also, just to let you know, we will hopefully have some time for questions at the session. So if you have any questions that come up during our conversation now, feel free to type them into the question box and we'll take as many questions as we can. So what steps can you automate? So, initial steps. So kind of the easy ones, the low-hanging fruit. So welcome email with some links to training and maybe some initial instructions as to how to get started. Obviously, the final steps, something at the end of onboarding, go live congratulations, a survey that they can complete at the end of onboarding process. Those are all easy ones to get started with. The post-onboarding steps, it's always good to keep in touch with the customer and kind of check in regularly to make sure that they continue using your product and getting what they need. So you can have periodic campaigns that go out, maybe 30, 60, 90 days post-go live with some information, maybe another survey, just something to make sure that you're staying on top of that customer and making sure that the communication channels are open. The in-between steps, so things that the customer needs to accomplish during onboarding, a lot of times those could be like configuration or integration steps, something that you can email out with concrete instructions based on where your customer is in their onboarding journey. You can provide the relevant documentation and guidance for them to smoothly transition from step to step and end up in the right place. Campaigns that would do something around feature usage. So you did X, now do Y. So if they have accomplished something specific in their onboarding journey, now they need to do something else. So you essentially present them with the right information at the right time based on what they have already achieved. And alternatively, also, if they're not doing the right things, if for some reason they haven't achieved a particular milestone or they haven't integrated as something specific that is preventing them from proceeding in the onboarding process, you can send them an email, you didn't do X, here's a tip, maybe a webinar, and maybe reasons to go ahead and do this X. If it's a key core milestone in the onboarding that's preventing them from proceeding. So those are all ideas or all the potential areas that are kind of easy to start with in the automation. There may be a lot of other things you could do as well, but these are just some initial ideas that can start your process of figuring out which steps can be easily automated. And then what are we trying to improve with this automation, right? There's things, obviously, we're trying to save time, we're trying to build in efficiencies and optimize our resources, but the easy ones to think of is, time to onboard. Let's expedite that process. Let's make sure that we get customers onboarded as quickly as possible. And if we automate a lot of this, information and process, hopefully we'll get improvement in our time to onboard. Obviously, we're trying to improve satisfaction overall, so hopefully our customers are getting the resources they need. They can be self-sufficient if they need to, because we have presented them with the right relevant information, and hopefully our satisfaction scores will go up, our NPS rating will be higher, all that good stuff will come out of this. We obviously want our customers to start using our product as soon as possible, and we want to improve the product usage and adoption. And we want to improve knowledge sharing. So if we can provide our customers with the right training resources, the right collateral at the right time in their journey, hopefully they'll be more informed and better educated about our product and its benefits. So some of the kind of screenshots, and we'll dive into the demo as well in a moment, but essentially coming up with the right campaigns, setting them up, enabling them, and kind of putting it on autopilot. So the right steps within our customer onboarding journey are already configured and running for us, so that we can focus, our teams can focus on the right more consultative type conversations, in spending more times with customers on items that really need our attention, and letting the automation kind of run its course. And also visualization. So this is just one example of how you can potentially visualize your onboarding segments. You can set up an onboarding segment within the Health Console into Tango and visualize the different buckets based on where your customer is at in the onboarding process, and then also post onboarding. So this is just a quick example. Now with that, I'm actually going to skip out of this and jump directly into our demo instance and show you some ideas that you can take for yourself, or maybe expand on them, but these will be some cool suggestions that you can infuse into your processes potentially as well. So what I've done, I prepared in the segments area, I have a folder for campaigns onboarding, and I have a few suggested campaigns that I created segments for that you can also take advantage of. So initially, we already talked about the welcome email, and this is a really easy one to start with. Any new users that come on board for your product, you can really just reach out to them with a warm and welcome, introducing your team, introducing some resources, providing them with an ability to register for maybe a training session. And that's a really best practices approach for using campaigns and running this type of automation. So basically, my criteria was to look at all paying customers and that had their first activity in just the last day. So it's essentially providing me with all the newest users in the platform. And from here, I will quickly dive into the campaign. Actually, once you have a segment created, you can actually start and launch a campaign directly from a segment. You don't have to, but it just saves some time. You can also start campaigns directly by going to the campaigns area into Tango and launching and building your logic from scratch, or actually including the specific segment that has already been built. But this I find to be the easiest one. So I'll just actually build a quick campaign here before I go into the other campaign idea for you. So I'm just going to call this test. We also have something that's coming soon. You guys will see this in the near future, but we have an ability to designate activity types. So depending on the type of activity or the type of campaign, you can actually specify what type of campaign this will be. I will call this right now a nurture campaign, or it can also be an educational campaign because I'm introducing resources to my new users. And I'll just use it, build my own custom campaign so that I can customize it myself. Now, as you can see right away, all my applied criteria is already here, so I don't need to redefine my segment. I'm just looking at all my new users, basically that have the first activity day in the last day. I will continue. And I can give this a goal. So with Tatango's campaigns, you can actually specify specific goals. In this particular one, I'm not going to have a goal because I'm not talking about specific feature usage, so I will skip it. And here's where I can, have my specific email subject. So I'll just say, welcome, here's your CSM team and resources. So you guys can come up with something more exciting than that. The sender can be the success manager, so it's going to have that intimate one-to-one feel when it arrives in the inbox of the user. So it's going to come directly from their CSM. You can also specify a fallback, sender's name, and email address in case there is no assigned CSM. You can have that available. And then you can have it branded, so you can have logos and colors and banners, or you can simply use plain text, which is what I'll select right now for myself. And then from here is where I can actually customize my message. So I'll say, hi, and I'll infuse the data that we have into Tatango. So I'll add data, and I'll send this to my specific individual. So I'll have first name, and if there's no first name, I'll say hi there. And basically, the body of my message is going to be relevant. I'll provide some links to resources, maybe a registration link to training. Once I'm done with that, I'll preview my message, and then I will send it to the specific target segment. What's important about this type of campaign is because it's going to be an ongoing kind of autopilot campaign that we'll have, we want to make sure that it's set up to be ongoing, and that way it will automatically send this welcome email and introduction to all the new users that arrive or that have the first activity day in the last day. So then I'll press continue. It's going to tell me that there's going to be 17 emails sent across 12 accounts. Once I enable, my my campaign is gonna be activated and set up to go. So that's the first example, really easy one with welcome. Another easy one too, you may have different types of users. We do in Tatango, we have regular users, we have admin users, and in certain cases you have, various things you want to communicate to just your admin level individuals. So this would be my email campaign that will actually just introduce my product to only admin users that have started with the product. So, I have a role definition. So I have an attribute that's tracking the role of a user, and it's going to be admin. And from here, it's going to just basically, I'll come up with my customized message. I can link directly to my campaign builder from here as well, and do the same thing I just did with the other initial campaign. So that's another one that I wanted to show you. And it's really good if you have that user level information, the different roles, for your specific users. This is a great way to infuse better logic into your campaign so that you're targeting the right user at the right time. Another thing that's important to note, communicating to your key contacts, because your key contacts may not necessarily be the users that are actually in your product day to day, but you do want to make sure that you communicate to them regularly, that you provide the ROI, maybe something, some sort of summary during onboarding, so that the key contact stays engaged, because they're probably the one that decided that your product is needed for their organization. So you want to make sure that the lines of communication are open. So again, we can use the Tatango capability for user level key contact attribute. And then this one is going to look at, customers that were created in the last 30 days and messaging to the key contacts for those customers. So that's another one. And then from here, we can go into the kind of the specifics of the onboarding flow. So depending on what your onboarding flow looks like, you can actually specify and build campaigns to go out at the right time in your process. So what we can do, one of the examples that I have is an onboarding integration checkpoint. So basically my milestone would be defining documents not achieved. So campaign to drive that integration point. So for example, if in my specific product, my customers need to define documents or need to configure something specific in the product, and they have not done this yet, basically they have done it 0 times or no more than 0 times, then I want to make sure I reach out. So I'll reach out to either inform them of the benefits of getting this milestone achieved. I will provide them some helpful links with some resources and instructions. Maybe they're simply just not aware or haven't been trained on what needs to happen next. So that could be my campaign in driving the process forward for my particular milestone journey in the onboarding flow. So that's another quick example. And then from here, there's feature usage. So maybe in your process or in your onboarding, you need to have your customers do specific things. So this is very similar. So I'm looking at the specific activity of document creation. So I want my users to start creating documents. That's how I know they're, getting onboarded and they're starting to use the product. And if they didn't do that, then again, I will message them with something specific as to how to get started with document creation. And conversely, if they have started using documents, maybe I will encourage them to do something, beyond creating documents. Maybe there's more advanced features and functions that I want them to start adopting and taking advantage of. And the campaign can be really precise and specific to the specific situation that your customer is in at that time. And again, I can launch directly into the campaign building process from here and build my logic out directly from the screen because I already have the segments created. If we think about the, kind of the post-onboarding process, so after we have gotten them to do the right things, we have gotten them integrated, they've gone live, now we can actually follow up after onboarding. So your easy steps after onboarding is to, send them some sort of survey or congratulations, you are now live with us. Please provide feedback. We would love to hear from you. So onboarded customers in the past 30 days, follow up with key contacts to survey and check in. So I'm actually going to go into the editor really quick so I can show you guys the logic that has been infused for this particular past onboarding campaign. So basically I'm looking at users that are key contacts. And this is the filter condition here. So under user information, I simply grab the key contact and I'm looking at my paying customers. So I'm looking at the status type as paying. And this is a neat one if you haven't used this before. Basically, I'm looking at the account level filter and I grabbed status right here. And then what I did, I actually specify change. So I'm looking at status changed in the last, this is my option, in the last 30 days. And I'm saying that it changed to established from onboarding. So that's what I did. So I'm looking at all the customers that have gone from onboarding to established status. So basically they've graduated and gone live in the last 30 days. This is my criteria. And from here is when I'm actually going to message to the key contact. I'm going to say, congratulations on going live. I hope you're enjoying, our product so far. Wanted to make sure you're getting what you need. And here's, a survey, quick survey we'd like for you to complete. We want to make sure we gather your feedback and improve going forward. So this is a really easy one after onboarding to automate that process. And then once we get this campaign activated, it can be on autopilot. So you never need to worry about, going in and sending that email manually. As soon as we detect there's a status change from onboarding to established, the email will go out. So it's really a great way to alleviate any of the manual follow-up that your team needs to do after onboarding is completed and have this, running in kind of in autopilot mode. So these are some ideas and suggestions. Obviously, the way that you set up the campaign flow and your onboarding will depend on what milestones you have. And then how can you guide your customers in the onboarding process based on, what they have achieved or haven't achieved, and also infusing some of the specific instructional guidance, depending on the type of customer and the kind of user you have, targeting, the admin users separately from regular users and guiding them along in the process and hopefully expediting the time it takes for you to get your customers onboarded, hopefully with higher satisfaction ratings and higher NPS scores. So that's basically the kind of the flow I wanted to go through today. Wanted to pause for a second and see if anybody has any questions, and we'll obviously take as many as we can during the session. So I do have some questions coming in. The first one is, can I create a campaign that is not based on time, but rather it's based on an action? Absolutely. So if we go into one of the these guides that I had under the feature usage flow, so basically you can, so any activity that is tracked into Tango, you can use that for your logic. So basically in this particular case, and I'm going to go into the editor to show you where to grab that information, I'm actually looking at this one is specific to activities. So under user activity, I use this did certain activities option. So when I select that, I can actually look for a particular action that is being tracked into Tango and say, has this been done or has this not been done? So if viewing documents, for example, is important, I can grab this one, document viewed, and I can say, my frequency, I can define it, what that should be. And I usually like to grab the no more than or equal to. So I can say no more than or equal to 0 times in the last, and you can specify the time frame. So you can say if your users have not viewed the document at all in the last 14 days, then you want to message them. Or the first one that I already had in here is document created. So if my users are not creating any documents, I want to make sure that I follow up with them. So this is how you do it based on specific action. So if the action hasn't been done, or if it has been done, you can really message specifically to those users based on that.